What's up, good people? This is Shed Some Light, and I am James Judah. Today, we're going to be continuing on a topic in commentary on a video called Right is Wrong and Wrong is Woke by John L. Cooper. Check him out on Facebook. Let's go ahead and get right into it. Well, let's get a brief recap. The last video, this is a three-parter. On the last video, part 2, we ended by discussing, is property considered part of the capitalistic agenda, or is it not? That was what we left out on last. I encourage you to go watch that video, part 2, and I encourage you to go ahead and watch part 1 so you can go ahead and have the relevancy to be able to understand what we've been talking about. So this is going to be part 3, and let's jump right into it. Let me switch the screen over again. I'm trying not to make these videos too long because I know that you guys' time is valuable. So I try to make them as short as possible, and I appreciate you guys for watching, and here we go.
Communistic thought, if you will, people shouldn't own property, all right? And so that doesn't really count. So that's not violence, but words are violence. A really important word we have to look at here, all right? One of the first ones, this is massive, is the word equality. All right. The word equality in America used to mean that we wanted to have an equal playing field. OK, it was equality under the law. Now that has changed because it used to be equality of process. Now it is equality of outcomes. Now those are two very different things. OK, in civil rights, what they were fighting for, the civil rights movement, was equality under the law. They didn't want separate but equal. All right, they had equal water fountains back then. They had, equal lunchroom counters, whatever you want to call it. Maybe equal what have you, and seats in the bus. No, we don't want separate but equal. We want actual equality under the law. All right, everybody is treated the same. Everybody on the playing field. Martin Luther King Jr. famously said, where everyone is judged not by the color of their skin, but the content of their character. We want an equal playing field, and nobody should be discriminated against because of the color of their skin for a job opportunity, all right? You can use any water fountain you want to. We don't want separate equal. We want equality of process. Equality of process would be like this. This would be like if there was going to be a foot race and you have a white person and a person of color or a minority of some sort. You both are going to run. Here's the start line. The start line is the same. You don't make one person start farther back than the other. You both start equally. You're 3, 2, the gun shot, you got to run, and you both get an equal, opportunity to hear the gunshot, to start at the same, place, what have you, the same. Everybody knows the rules, and as long as the process is fair.
In a perfect world, this is the rules, but let's let him continue to talk.
As long as nobody held anybody back or put weights in their shoes or anything crazy like that, as long as the process is fair, that is equality under the law. That's what the civil rights movement was fighting for. At some point,
Okay, let me stop it there and interject for a second and to agree and kind of disagree. So here it goes. I understand, or we should be able to understand, that not everybody is going to like us, right? The earlier that we learn this, the better off that we are going to be able to, or the faster we're going to learn that life is more about feelings. Life isn't more about feelings than they are about facts. Okay, so let's explain this foot race, okay? Like I started to say, in a perfect world, everybody, it starts at the same starting line. Everybody gets the same countdown, 3, 2, 1, boom. The starter pistol is shot, and everybody does get to start the race at the same time in a perfect world. But if you really look at it, for the minority, Yes, we are at that starting line. We are at that same starting line. And he kind of alluded to, but I can also can tell that he doesn't necessarily believe it wholeheartedly. But this is a fact. We, the minority, let me plug my camera up here because this is about to die. We, the minority, do have those weights in our socks, or we just don't plan have on shoes at all, and we got blisters and stuff on our feet, and we are still at that starting line. We are still waiting for the same announcement to start. We still get to start at the same time, but because of adversity, because of racism, because there are people who out there who do despise other people simply because of their skin color. And I'm sorry, America, if you don't want to hear that. I'm sorry, people who want to try to sweep that under the rug. But yes, racism does exist. So, person trying to get a job. I made a video on this earlier, and there's been many other videos to speak to this as well. And their name is Akimbe Mutombo. And there is another person going for that same job, and his name is Timothy John. Okay? The statistics say that Timothy John is going to have his application examined more than Akimbe's application is. He is going to get the first pick of the interview, and he is probably going to have the most likely person to get his job simply based on his name. That is fact. Fact number two. Okay, let's say my name is Sylvester. Okay, my mom gave me the name Sylvester. On this show, I go by James Barjuda. James is my middle name as well. So anyways, back to on the subject. So my name is James, or Sylvester, whatever you want to say, James. That's still kind of a white sounding name. James, my last name is also sounds kind of white. My given last name. Sounds kind of white. So they'll look at my application. Yeah, his name sounds okay. Let's go ahead and give him an interview. Get to the interview and they see me. The chances of me getting that second interview, if I did not ace the interview and show them that beyond my skin color, I am capable of doing this job, I'm not going to get that second interview because they thought the perception of me isn't who I actually am unless I am able in that interview to persuade them otherwise. And sometimes that interviewer can't get past his prejudice. And so no matter what you say, no matter your qualifications, you're still not going to get that second interview and you're not going to get that job. Those are facts, not feelings. Let's get back to it.
Again, the social justice movement began to infuse a new meaning into the word equality. And the new meaning is equality of outcome. And equality of outcome means this, that at the end of that race, if the white person won the race, then there is not equality of outcome. All right? And so if there's not equality of outcome for the foot race or for however many white people versus brown people or black people or men versus women.
I should say this too, just because maybe the white person did win the race, maybe because that white person did get that job, that should not then give the black person the excuse to say, well, I'm not going to put any more applications, because that is exactly what they want. They want us to be defeated. If we are defeated, then we don't give them any pushback. Then we become passive again. Then we become what's it called, malleable, or we become where they be usable. You're a good black boy. We will keep you around. But they. So even if the white person does win the race, it does not mean that we should stop pursuing that happiness, because our forefathers are the originators of this country. They did put in that Constitution, the Bill of Rights, or the Declaration of Independence. There we go. They did put in the Declaration of Independence the pursuit of happiness, that all men are created equal, and that they do have the right to pursue happiness. They have the right to gain. They have the right to have property, and they have the right to pursue happiness. Not that they have the right to be happy, or not that they have the right to have all of this stuff, but they have the right to go out and work for it. Let's go back to the video.
Or gay versus straight, or whatever it is, whatever those identity groups are broken up into. If there are disparities in between any of the groups of people, in other words, you don't view it as an individual. You don't view it as an individual that won the foot race. That individual is a type. That individual is a type or a symbol for his entire identity group. Okay, and so now it is an identity group. So if more white people win the foot race than brown people, then now we have inequality of outcome. But in short, they just call that inequality. And so when the old people that...
Okay, another fact. Here in America, the minority is the minority. That's why they're called the minority. There are more whites than there are non-whites here in America. So there are going to be more of white people applying to keep up the analogy of the job. There are going to be more white applicants. So there is a disparity in that sense, that because there's more applying, the likelihood even in that is that a white person is going to be more likely to be hired. Let's continue to white. So again, I wanted to kind of, I agree with this guy, but I don't agree with him. So far I understand, and hopefully you'll understand, he ever gets with this video, which I'm sure you won't, that, it's okay for us to have differences. It's okay to be able to talk about the things that we disagree with each other, and still at the end of the day call you brother. I don't know who this guy is, like I've already previously stated, but just because I disagree in some of his areas don't mean that I don't in some he is talking about, and for the most part of what he said in this 3-part video, I do agree with. But here in some areas about Breonna Taylor, I tend to disagree with. But let's get back to what he's saying.
View the old definition of equality. Start hearing people say, well, it's there's so much inequality, and the old people go, no, there's not. Look, it's fair, and they list out the things. All that the new social justice warriors say, you people are racist. You people are xenophobes. Don't you know the history in this country? And then those people go, yeah, but we're looking at the law. It looks like everything is equal under the law. These people, the oldies over there, all the old folks, they don't understand the new definition of the word. Rather than explain the new definition of the word, all these people just say, are all you oldies, are you really telling us that you don't care about inequality? What kind of heartless people are you?
So there isn't equality under the law for whites versus a minority. We see it all throughout at least 10, 20 years now, even before that, way before that. But to be blind to that tells me that you willfully don't want to believe that your side has done anything wrong. And this gentleman so happens to be white. So I can understand that, he himself, I'm pretty sure, I don't know him from Adam, but I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that he himself has never done a prejudiced thing in his life, a racist thing in his life. And I'm going to go so far to say maybe his ancestors back maybe 5 generations weren't the ones that hanging people on the tree. But the fact of the matter is that there was people hanging black people on the tree, and there are still people doing it today. point blank, simple as that. And to sweep it under the rug is to be party to it, is to be a co-assailant to evil. To not speak up against evil is to be evil. There is inequality under the law. Minorities, for the most part, are poor. Okay? So when they commit a crime, if they commit a crime, legitimately commit a crime, because we also know that sometimes black people just fit the description, and for black people, you are more than most likely guilty until proven innocent, instead of innocent still proven guilty. You will await your trial in jail until ever how long you have your trial, be it a year or 12 years. You're in there trying to fight for your innocence. Why? Because for minorities, the system knows that we, for the most part, are poor, and therefore will not be able to afford a private attorney. And because we are not able to afford a private attorney, then we will get appointed an attorney for us. Now, we think that this attorney works for us, but they really don't, because where the attorney gets paid from and where the DA gets paid from is the same pot. Okay? So when we get this public defender, they might have 400 or so people on their caseload. Okay? And you are 401. Do you think that they are going to be able to have time to look at your case and give you equal representation under the law, given with the time that they have? There's 5 days in a work week, right? Maybe they work 8 to 10 hour days, okay? They got 400 people. If we did the math on that, are they able to give the time to you, the individual, to give you equal representation of the law? No, and that's an infringement on one of your amendments. 2, if the DA and your public defender are in cahoots and making deals with each other, which they do, are they giving you adequate defense of the law? No, they are not. So it's a system set up for the minority to fail. Yes, we do get to start on that same starting line. We do get to hear that same starting pistol, but the race is not the same. Let's get back to watching. We're not going to watch too much again, because I know your time is valuable. I know I've already said that, but it is true. I know your time is valuable. But let's watch a few minutes more, and then we'll be done for this trilogy.
Why don't you have compassion? Now you're faced with a choice. You either are going to keep saying, yeah, but I need to understand if what I am agreeing to is actually true or not. Guess what? If you do that, that will get you in woke prison. It doesn't matter if it's true or not, because the new social justice warriors, all the new woke Christians are saying, why don't you care about people? And they're saying, it's this definition it's always been. Nothing's changed. This is what we've always meant by equality. It's not what we've always meant by equality. By the way, if you want to know an amazing book on this, check out Thomas Sowell. He has 2 unbelievable books on this. I'll write them on the screen. One of them is called Visions. What is that called? I'll write them on the screen. I can't remember the name of it. Thomas Sowell, political philosopher, one of the absolute geniuses of our time.
Confliction of visions and discrimination and disparities.
By the way, Discrimination and Disparities is one of his books that's unreal. Conflict of Visions, that's his other book. Why am I telling you about the definitions of equality? This is why it matters. If you can get enough people believing that the definition of equality is equality of outcome, that everybody needs to have the exact same thing. By the way, for all of you old people and all of you parents wondering why everybody has to...
And in the same way you can get everybody to believe that there is equality, then the injustice or the corruption inequality will never be found out. The street goes both ways.
To get a participation trophy at their school, or nobody can be a winner in the game because that's just mean to say. There's a lot of reasons that contribute to that, by the way, and I know a lot of people have written about it: feminization of America, PC culture, inclusion. All those things are true, by the way. But also in that, injected into that, is this equality of outcomes. Because if one person wins and someone doesn't, well, that is actually that is a culture of inequality, and that is just something that woke culture warriors hate. It's why they hate capitalism. Okay. Capitalism says you run the race as long as the process is fair. You run the race and whoever wins, wins. And it gives you incentive to run harder or train harder or whatever it may be. And so that is why there's also a war on capitalism as far as that goes. It has to be absolutely equality of outcomes. Now, this takes us to the big one. Are you ready for it? This takes us to the reason that we are all screaming and fighting about racism. This is the reason why. The word racism has changed drastically. And if there are people right now that are like, I don't want to hear all this, John, we're going to get to why it matters in a second. I promise you why it matters in the religion of wokeness. The definition of racism has changed. The old definition of racism that everybody knew, really what Martin Luther King Jr. was fighting for. Can we get to a place where they used to call a colorblind society? And what they meant was where you're judged by the content of your character. Everybody has a shot. We all love each other. White kids and black kids play together. I have a dream. You know all the stuff. The old definition of racism said this: racism is when you think that you are superior to another person's skin color, where white people are superior to black people, or this colored people, they are inferior to us because of X, Y, or Z. I don't want to hire black people because they're inferior to my race or because I hate them for some particular reason. That is what racism was. And that can be in thought, that can be in action, that could be in a policy, meaning I don't want to hire them because they're black. Well, that's what the civil rights fought for. And it was racist policy. We fixed those policies. That is the old definition of racism. The new definition of racism is this. It broadens it out into identity groups, as I already said, all right? A black person is only a type. He is a symbol for all black people. A white person is a symbol for all white people. A gay person is a symbol for all gay people. We're all broken up into little groups. And racism is if there are any inequities between any of those groups. They call them disparities. You may have read about this and certain things. So whenever you say, I don't think that that's
All the word disparity means is a great difference. So an orange is a disparity to an apple.
Inequality that white people win the foot race more than black people. Okay. Which probably typically is not actually true, but you get my point. Hypothetically, white people.
I'm glad that he kind of mentioned it very briefly, that he did say that white people do win the race more often than black people, but a lot of that contributes to be that there are more white people lying. But that there's a whole breakdown in that as well. But we'll give it to him. We'll give it to him.
People win the foot race more than black people, and they say, yeah, well, that is an inequity. And if there are any disparities between races, they can only be attributed to one thing, and that is racism. And if you attribute it to anything else in the world, even if you say there's something else that contributes to those inequities or those disparities, you might want to call them disparities, is actually a better word for it. If you say that anything else contributes to that disparity, then that's racist. That is the new definition of racism. This is why old people don't understand all the
Racism isn't the one reason, but it is very close to it. There is if you break it down, if you break down everything that happens, the root cause of stuff is racism. So you would say that it is the number one reason, but again, to be blinded by that is on that individual. They're willfully trying not to see that there are diasporas in our lifetime and disparities between minorities and the majority. That it's willful. That mean that that the minority should stop putting in applications? Nope, we should put in more. Does that mean that minorities should not go out and vote? Heck no. Minorities should go out and vote by droves and vote for the right, I don't want to say side, but vote morally. Not what you see on TV, not what you think you know about a person, but look at the facts of what they stand on. Again, on what they stand on as a president or as a senator or as a congressman, and look at what they voted on. And if what they voted on agrees with what you would vote on, vote for that person. Don't look at the person as an individual, because when the person steps into these offices, they are no longer an individual. They are a representative of an office. Okay. You have to look at the office and not the person. The person, and especially you can't look at who the person was before they came into the office if the person who they are in office is totally different than the person who they were out of office. And then you got to look, if you are going to look at that, be all the way honest and just be all the way honest in your developments on how you believe on certain things and how before you vote. Okay.
The new stuff, all right? Because the definition has changed. And this has been made very popular from Abram Kendi, who wrote How to Be an Anti-Racist. I'm sure you've heard about it. If not, Abram Kendi has been named one of the 100 most influential people in the world. And the theory is this: there are two kinds of people, racist and anti-racist. There is no third person. There is no person that what I would consider myself to be, which I say I'm absolutely not a racist. I hate racism, but I don't look at every single disparity between races and say it's 100% due to racism.
So you're racist then. So there is a different viewpoint there, and I'm going to say it like there's the world economy, there's the humanistic economy, and then there's God's economy. If you're racist, if you do subscribe to that, if you try to oppress people in any type of way, more than most likely, no matter what color you are, you're in the racist faction. Okay. The second one is the world's economy. If you live your life tolerant and you kumbaya and can't we all just get along and you're that person, well then you're probably in this part, the world's economy, that's anti-racist. Okay. And then the third economy, God's economy, said everything. Says, okay, there is racism, what do we do about it? We should have peace, let's be peaceful. But the God's economy judges the heart, the content, and the character of man. We do not look what the person can do for us. We look to do what we can do, what that person can do for them. John F. Kennedy said, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country." That is something that the Christian should be saying. Ask not what somebody else can do for you, but ask what you can do for them. That is the God's economy. God's economy doesn't look at self, it looks at outward. God looks at you in the inside, but God, perspective of what how we're supposed to help and be a part of society is not how can I benefit, but how can I benefit you? That's God's economy.
Give you an example. Just this week, the Breonna Taylor trials for the officers came out. What we found out this week, unless we're being lied to, I guess we'll find out more information, but what came out in the trial is this, that the police, even though they did have a no-knock warrant, they did knock on the door. They did shout out police. It was heard by witnesses.
Did not shout out police. They did knock on the door. They did have a no warrant, but they did not, at the last minute, leadership decided to knock, but not announce. And there are several witnesses to say that they did not even hear the knock, let alone hear them announce. I seen some footage, and the video that I saw, only one person corroborated the story of saying that they heard them knock and say that they were the police. Now, where she lives, granted, now people might have been asleep, but the philosophy of the police are the strategy and the tactics of the police are when they do these searches and they do announce themselves, they knock so hard and announce themselves so loud that people within a 100 feet radius hear what they're saying. So their apartment complex where she was is set up 2 stories. I believe it's 2 or 3 complexes, or three apartments in one on one floor. So the total is 6 apartments, 3 on the bottom, 3 on the top. She was in the far corner apartment, the far wall of the apartment. They knocked all other 5 of those apartments, if they had been home, should have heard the police or heard the commotion or heard and being able to say, yeah, we heard everything, we did, but that's not what happened. So let's get back to what he's saying.
Below, in the apartments below, they came into the door. Breonna Taylor's boyfriend opened fire on the police, shot a police officer, and then the police officers shot back and accidentally killed Breonna Taylor, which is obvious.
Police are also trained to shoot the threat. You see it all the time in movies where they'll have these pop-ups come up. You see it in Men in Black, where Will Smith to become one of the Men in Black, and he was in the shooting gallery, and one of the scenes is he's one of the pop-ups come up, and it's a little girl reading a book. And all the other ones were monsters, right? And he didn't shoot any of the monsters. He shot the little girl for his funny reason. A little girl out in the middle of the Brooklyn at night reading a book. No, she got something up with her. That's why he shot her. But of course, he was wrong. But yeah, they train like that. They train where they're Quantico. There, if you want to watch a video on YouTube, look up Quantico. They have live scenarios in situations like this where there's a person that is a threat, person that isn't a threat. Who do you shoot? Person with a gun, without a gun, and they have to be able to react and know who is the threat and who isn't the threat. These people want to say, oh, well, we were all puffed up on our and this, that, and the third, and we couldn't tell this, that, da 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 da. I call malarkey, bullish on that. You shoot the shooter. And how did he not that I'm wishing this on him, but how did he come away unscathed if he shot the cop? If he's the one who shot the cop, how does he not have not one bullet? And praise God he doesn't, but how?
Obviously a big tragedy. If you look at that and you say, I'm not sure if that's actually about racism or not. You're a racist, according to Abram Kendi, according to woke culture. You're not allowed to have a third option. So if any of you people out there are saying, well, I'm totally woke, I totally believe.
If you don't believe that, I'm not, shed some light is not saying. James Barr saying that you are racist. What I'm saying that you is that you are willfully being ignorant.
Believe in disparities, racism, but this Breonna Taylor episode is actually different because other things contributed. Then you're a racist, according to Abram Kendi. There's no third option. You have to say it's because of a culture of white supremacy that created a disparity where this happens to black people disproportionately more than it does to white people, and that is all because of white supremacy. So now we are in a place where we're really getting into it. Now we're saying you infuse the words to mean something else, and then you push the culture, and because enough people believe it, you push the culture towards an agenda to fight a utopian idea of that we're going to end racism in the world by saying things that are not, in my opinion, not true at all. And I think there's a lot of other people. I wonder who else is saying that it's not true, that now is also a racist. Let's take a look.
Facing backlash for his comments on the Breonna Taylor case. Last night during the NBA pregame show, he said Taylor's death should not be compared to other recent high-profile cases.
You know, we do have to take into account that her boyfriend did shoot at the cops and shot a cop. So, like I say, even though I'm really sorry she lost her life, I don't think that we can just say we can put this in the same situation with George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery.
All right, yes, I agree. We cannot put this in the same situation as those situations because this situation is different. Yes, the boyfriend did present a weapon during this altercation. I saw my own two eyes and my ears, what I was able to hear and see. Being from where they were from, they have a degree on law. If you are, it's nighttime, 1, 2 o'clock in the evening or early morning, and you're in bed with your loved one, and you hear a noise at your door, and somebody's knocking at your door, do 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 do, and you say, "Who is it?" And nobody responds. And then you hear the knock again, do 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 do, and you announce and you say, "Who is it?" And nobody says. Now, you are going to be a little frantic, right? You're going to be on the defense. They knock again, boom, bustle the door. My reaction as the protector of my home is to use whatever is necessary to protect my home. I shoot, poof, shot the guy wherever he got shot the police officer, and nobody needs to be shot. Really, the point of the matter is what I'm really saying is it's not a tragedy that Breonna Taylor lost her life. It was a murder, and I'm not saying that, ooh, hooray, the cop got shot. That's not what I'm saying either. All I'm saying is that they are two different situations. The things that going on with George Floyd, that was a deliberate act of murder. This here was an assassination. It was an execution is a better word. They knew what they were doing. They messed up on what they were trying to do, and now they're covering it up. All the facts are there if you want to go on ahead and look it up for yourself. I've done a video on it as well. You can look at that previous video, and it's called Breonna Taylor: The Details. Me and my wife did that video. If you want to go ahead and check it out, I'm going to end this trilogy here. I'm going to say I appreciate you. This is Shed Some Light. I am James Barjuda, and you guys have a wonderful, blessed